Welcome to the Creative Brew, helping you keep your creative juices brewing. We're giving out chunks of insight, motivation, and practicality for your creative journey. My next partner is Elevate Coffee Trading, and if you appreciate specialty coffee, enjoy outdoor adventure, and love helping elevate the lives of children around the world, then you're going to love Elevate Coffee Trading. Their mission is to extract hope through love, coffee, and adventures. There's free shipping in the United States, and every bag of coffee helps sponsor health and education for children in coffee-producing countries and in areas of need in the United States. You can use promo code Elevate21 on your next order, and you can follow their journey on social media at Elevate Coffee Trading. Or you can visit online at elevatecoffeetrading.com, and let's start extracting hope together. And this episode is brought to you by Boba Coffee, smuggling good vibes. Boba roasts their coffee beans each week and only offers the freshest coffee. They have espressos, lattes, cappuccinos, pour over, or drip coffee. You can try their cold brew coffee, nitro cold brew, or bulletproof coffee, and boba milk teas. They also have a wide assortment of delicious food. I would suggest you try the avocado toast, mimosas, wine, or beer. On the weekends, you can check out some great music like the Soto Six and food like Eliza the Shelf and others over the weekend, every Friday and Saturday, beginning at 6 p.m. You can check out everything they got going on Facebook and Instagram at Baba Coffee. And welcome back to a new episode of The Creative Brew, giving you insights on your creative journey. Today, we're actually back at Baba Coffee here in Colombia, California. Great sponsor of mine, so we're always fortunate to come back and record an episode here. And really just giving a quick shout out for Baba Coffee, smuggling good vibes, good coffee. They have a wide assortment of coffee, wine, beer, and then they also have weekend entertainment with bands like the Soto Six, and then food vendors with like Eliza the Shelf, and as well as others. So check them out over the weekend, or check them out today at babacoffee.com. Today we have my buddy Travis. So glad to have him in. This someone that I had a great relationship with over past few years, and we got connected. And like with many people, I end up getting connected with people through wrestling or grappling, and we find that we have the same commonalities and interests. So I think it was pretty much a perfect fit to have Travis on. And but I'll let him share his story, and yeah, we'll like I said, we'll talk about everything in between, from jiu-jitsu, creativity, to even to the work that he's doing right now. So without further ado, I'll bring Travis on. Travis, share your story a little bit.
How's it going? Thanks for having me again, Quantoff. Yeah, I don't know how far back you want me to start, but
As far back as you want to go.
so as far as like my creative journey, I've been an artist since I can remember. In terms of just like as far as I can remember back, I've been drawing or coloring or doing dance out, skateboarding as a kid.
Yeah.
Copying the Zorlak, artwork out of the back of Thrasher magazine, things like that when I was a kid. And then in high school, I didn't take any art classes until my senior year of high school. And those two art classes kind of showed me like, oh, you can actually do this, as a job. And I have two really great art teachers. One in particular, Mr. Boffin, who's since passed, but just a really cool dude and taught me a lot about how to do that. And so I made it my mind at high school to go to art school. And so, built a portfolio. And then, I remember Mr. Boffin helped me make two cardboard pieces together to with duct tape to bring it.
Yeah.
And then all the kids that had money had, the nice fancy black leather portfolio.
Yeah,
all that stuff. I'm like my homemade, thing rolling up to portfolio reviews. But I remember a good friend of mine and I drove up to LA to go to Otis College of Art and Design when they were still downtown. And portfolios got good reviews. They were like, this is great. Got in and then realized like how much art school costs.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I guess I'm not going to art school. And so I had to put the pause on that,
Yep.
and just didn't go. And so graduated high school and started going to community colleges just to kind of get my GED done and do stuff. And at the time I was rock climbing a bunch.
Okay.
So traveling, living out of my truck, rock climbing, doing that thing. Fast forward a bunch of years, took me about 10 years, so, almost. I met my wife and got married when I was 24.
Okay.
So, and I'm 49 now, so it's been a minute. Um, and is she was working after school, and so it kind of freed me up to reapply to go to school again. And
Yeah.
so I ended up reapplying to art school, and I got into arts here, in Pasadena. And at the time was like, I think we can make this work. I started going to art center, and I went there for a couple of years, and then it was getting real expensive.
Yeah.
So I took some time off. While I was working the whole time too, but took some time off so like work more to
Yeah.
save up some money. And then they were going to raise tuition. I don't know if I can finish here, it's too much. So I ended up reapplying to Otis, and then ended up getting accepted to Otis, got the transfer into junior. So I ended up going, 10 years later to the same school I had applied to and got in high school,
Wow.
but couldn't afford then.
Yeah.
And they gave me a lot of scholarships based on the portfolio and stuff like that. So I was able to make it somewhat affordable, not that much affordable because I did just pay off my student loans like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
For art. Yeah, and then right away kind of fell into teaching art and showing in galleries, doing stuff like volunteering at galleries up in LA and interning, that stuff. I was doing shows there, and at the time, like not really doing work that was making me like happy.
Yeah.
One thing that art school did for me in grad school as well. I did go to grad school in there. Well, was it kind of killed my love of doing art for a while because it was like everything had to be super serious and had to have all this like critical theory put into it and all this stuff, and
Yeah.
it made it not joyful and fun.
Yes.
And so I would still do stuff for myself, but I wasn't like enjoying
Yeah.
making work for other people. So I took a lot of time off, and then it wasn't until we moved down here to San Diego, I don't know, almost 15 years ago now. Um, I was teaching at a school down here and happened across a gallery in Escondido. And I was like, hey, my art teacher, it'd be fun to do some stuff with you guys. And they're like, sure. So we did an event with kids. And then that led to the gallery owner going like, hey, if we're doing this charity fundraiser, we'd love to have you do some work. So I was like, did some work. And then that kind of got me fired up again. And then fast forward a little bit more, and then I became one of their stable artists. And so like
Okay.
I had a solo show in 2020, and so it just kind of organically happened for me to where I was like doing that stuff. And then in all that, I'm doing design work for friends, and you and I align a lot on that and teaching design and all that stuff. So it's been kind of a crazy journey. And through all that, doing sports as well.
Yeah.
So rock climbing, martial arts, and then eventually we moved here to Jiu Jitsu.
Yeah.
Which is how we met.
Yeah.
Kind of brings us to here. Really fast forwarded way.
Yeah, no, it's I know definitely coming from the East Coast, coming from Tennessee, and coming here, like I said, didn't know anyone. I've been in design, but nowhere near the connections that I have now. But yeah, it's always I think people feel like for any creator, they feel like, hey, ideally, you would love to go to art school and come out and get those jobs or get an opportunity to pursue your passion. And sometimes it doesn't happen like that. Sometimes you have to go all kinds of crazy ways in order to get to where you need to go. And I think obviously that's a testament to just being resilient. And I think that probably goes back to even rock climbing and even with jiu-jitsu. Heck, I know. Yeah. So it's one of those where, really just figuring out ways of, and I think for a lot of people, knowing that it's not going to be linear. I mean, you would love for it to be like, hey, step one, step two. And I know I tell people like, look, the connections I got, I was able, I mean, if I wasn't in sports, I wouldn't have nowhere near the connections, that I have. And that leads me into doing working design works that I love. I think that's the biggest thing is, obviously I know everyone has to pay the bills, but you don't want to be in a situation where, you're doing it just out of that soul need. I mean, it's got to be some kind of fulfillment. So
Yeah, that I used to be jealous when I was younger of like my friends who graduated high school, went to college, got jobs, got a house. And I was just thinking like, man, they got it figured out, And then it wasn't until later, all my friends were like, oh man, we wish we would have like traveled like you did and done just lived out of my truck or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I guess the grass is always greener to some extent, but developing that passion, I think the thing that is similar, I think, for a lot of the creatives though, is like finding the things that we like to do.
Yeah.
Whether it's sport or martial arts, like I tend to be all in on the things I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I surround myself with people who are like-minded. And then in those communities, you sort of see and meet people that, have other interests in their lives. And it's like, oh, this is where we all just huge overlap,
Yeah.
and it is from like sports, whether it's rock climbing, martial arts, surfing, skateboarding, jiu-jitsu, whatever.
Yeah.
You meet really great people from everywhere, and it like creates these really cool opportunities. It's not like we're walking around looking for work
Yeah.
or like
Yeah.
quick on work, like, oh, what can I get from this person? It's
Yeah.
not that. It's like it's genuinely like just being excited about what people are doing.
Yeah.
Something me personally, just like not only were like, you're an amazing grappler, we're in this jiu-jitsu context, but you don't know Montel's an amazing wrestler. Um, and but then we were talking about design, and it's like, oh yeah, you do graphic design. I'm like, no way, I teach graphic design. It's just one of these great serendipitous things that's going to let us to, having, you my classes a few times,
Yeah.
you know, helping or allowing me to facilitate, you coming to speak at different events and things like that. So it's been really cool to kind of like build on that, initial, just like maybe just wrestle together.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that sort of leads back to, I mean, I think some people feel like, specifically because I've had a lot of people, I know even from my end, that was in the design field, and they were specifically, we all wrestled in college, and I was the only one that actually made it out because people don't realize like how hard it actually is to, be an art student. And, I'm wrestling Division 1 athletics. It's really hard. And the time management, like you have to be, on your time management skills. And, then sometimes there's a give and take. Sometimes like, hey, you can't devote your full time to wrestling because you're trying to build up a, portfolio. You're trying to get things ready for, galleries and exhibits. And, so I know that personally, it was really tough on me. And, so I know, for a lot of people that, and it could be any sport, but I think a lot of people tend to uh, quit and just leave the sport completely. And I've been one of those to where like, use that as a platform. So like if like specifically with me, you know, staying with wrestling, like how do I use my skills and the things that I know? How could I build something around that sport? And so that, I mean, personally, that's what I'm trying to do. So trying to figure out ways of, and I think slowly it's coming along, but you might as well stay in that sport. It's got you so far, stay in it. And, I think I learned even now as a coach, I learned so much coaching now than what I did when I was even competing, even about myself and even like, just different concepts and how to, create, how to connect the dots for people. And I think that actually turns around and helps me out with clients because I'm able to create solutions, that maybe they didn't see, or maybe figuring out ways of pulling different concepts together to create some kind of visual identity that,
Yeah.
that clients love. But
Yeah. That idea of like coaching is, an interesting thing because as a teacher, obviously, like I spend a lot of my creative energy helping other people be
Yeah.
creative. And then as a jiu-jitsu coach, it's like creatively figuring out and help people understand the movements we're doing or what the concepts behind what we're doing. And then as a practitioner, it's the creativity of like, solving those physical riddles, in the moment in a elegant way. And, like all that stuff is difficult to do. I think I've tended to gravitate towards sports that foster creativity.
Yeah.
Skateboarding's very creative and expressive. Surfing, creative, expressive. Rock climbing,
Yeah.
to some extent, you're creatively problem solving, whatever this in front of you. And then with combat sports, it's like you have to creatively problem solve against another person who's also trying to create a problem
Yeah.
solve against you, and it makes it really stimulating. In the same way that like making art or solving that visual problem would be really stimulating. So I think that's why I like all of that.
Yeah.
And because I can't have one without the other. I find like if I'm only doing art and not doing athletics or sports, I tend to suffer. And if
Yeah.
I'm only doing sports and athletics and I'm not doing anything creative and management, like I tend to suffer as well. So
Yeah.
it's like trying to find that sweet spot of like where I'm working. And to some extent with my design stuff, it's the same thing. I tend to design for people that are in industries that I've either been in or support.
Mhm.
It's like the surf industry, outdoor industry, jiu-jitsu or culture, that kind of stuff. So when I'm designing stuff or create little side brands for myself or whatever, it's really something that I like to do.
Yeah.
Right? I think it's creative people, artists, we get to like, we can make the thing we're thinking of.
Yeah.
Oh, nobody does it like exactly what I want for me.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I can do that.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really cool skill set to have.
Yeah. I know when for people that don't know Travis, he's a really good archer. Have you thought about you have your own like bow brand? I didn't know that.
I wish. That'd be cool. No, I do. I picked up archery in 2020.
Yeah.
So not that long ago. But again, I'm one of those like I have to go all in and nerd out about it. If not, I can't suck at it, And so I was shooting like hundreds of arrows a day.
Yeah.
Every day outside my house, just like nothing else to do.
Yeah.
And then that got me kind of into like wanting to bow hunt and shooting 3D archery. And started doing some events up at this place called the Ranch in Julius.
Okay.
And befriended a bunch of people in that community. And love it. So it's another one of those things I like martial arts where you can never get like the best at it.
Yeah.
It's always some little thing you can do to tweak to make yourself better.
Yeah.
And it's like you don't lose all the skill, but some of it's perishable if you don't sharpen it all the time, that kind of stuff. So it's like for me, if I can get out and shoot, even 20 arrows a day, I feel like I'm keeping the skills sharp. When I don't shoot for a couple of weeks, rough,
Yep.
But I do. It's like a solitary way to kind of like work against yourself. It's like a Zen focus,
Yeah.
And I like that as well. So it's meditative for me, but it's also a way to get outside. I'm, going to go on a hunting trip or something like that.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed it. It's super fun. And I'd love to like design a graphic for a bow or something. That'd be kind of cool, but yeah, not there yet.
Yeah.
One day.
Yeah. I do find myself, I used to separate out. And I think the more that I do like speaking engagements and I create this content, like the more I start like, I guess sort of being introspective about like what I'm actually doing with my work and even like what I'm doing with wrestling. Cause it's so weird. Podcasting, it's so weird because like everyone feels like I'm a full-time podcaster. I'm like, no, I'm actually a decent graphic designer. They're like, that's my main thing. So but I do find myself like I used to like separate everything out, like, hey, I'm a coach or I'm a wrestler and like now I just sort of find myself really seeing all that as just the extensions of just creativity. I used to, I know when I was in practice, obviously my mind was a little different when I was competing, but it'd be times where like, man, this is a tough practice. I'm like, why am I here? And now I find myself being more meditative with, even like if I'm rolling around or if I'm wrestling, like I don't have to prove anything. So, and I think with doing that, I actually become a better wrestler and coach because I don't. So I like even when I wrestle around with the guys from Alabama, like I could probably run through every kid in there. But it's one of those like tell them that's not helping. That's not helping me out or you. There's times where I'll intentionally I'll let them get in on a leg and then we'll play around and let's see what works. And I find when they ask more questions, then I'm able to create answers for them. I think that frees them up of like, hey, there's no, this set in stone way. There's all kind of different answers to a solution. And that's something that I wish going back, I wish I had, some coaches that were able to like sit down like, hey, look, this it's not a one and done. Like there's all kinds of solutions here. How do we be creative in these situations?
Especially with different bodies.
Yeah.
That's a great point. Like when I'm teaching, it's the same way, right? Trying to get people to understand they can solve visual solutions a bunch of different ways. But coaching jiu-jitsu especially, and just coaching kids too, but even the adults, like you have to put it. Jeff Glover, famous Jeff Glover, was talking about like the 70-30 rule.
Yeah.
That's how dogs play, where it's like if they're a bigger, stronger dog, like they could maul the other dog, but they let it win.
Yeah.
Like about 30% of the time.
Yeah.
So that it keeps it fun for the other dog.
Yeah.
And I feel the same way, like as a coach sometimes. It's like, that's not to say there aren't people who are, quote unquote lower ranked who could, maul me if they really wanted to.
Yeah.
I just make it really hard. That's about it.
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, you can, your technical ability, your knowledge, your mat time and mat knowledge is really high. So then like, how do you grow? Oh, well, you put yourself in bad spots.
Yeah.
And that helps the other person learn what to do
Yeah.
in the right spots. And then it helps you develop like your defenses, that do creatively problem solving.
Yeah.
In a way that if you were just trying to like shut everything down, you wouldn't
have
to do. Because you just know like, okay, well, I could just run through all these guys.
Yeah.
All right. And then it's always that understanding as we mature as athletes and as people that there's always somebody bigger, faster, stronger, better. Like,
yes.
You're never the top dog for very long.
Nope.
Like that's the you just kind of, hey, I try to be very humble as a coach too. Always like, there's more I don't know than what I do know.
Yeah.
And there are other black belts who've had black belts longer than I've been training.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's like, yeah, for a lot of people, 13 or 14 years is a long time. I'm like, yeah, but there's people who've had a black 20,
Yeah.
30 years, like,
Yeah.
so like their mat time is, infinite compared to mine. So I know the same moves and quotes,
Yeah.
but they might have some little details I just don't pick up. And so like, for me as a coach, that's where, and as a teacher of art too, like you pick up a higher skill set.
Yeah.
Because you do have to figure out how to communicate it to people. And you have to figure out like, what is it that they're doing wrong or doing right? How can you massage that into the optimal
Yeah.
knowing for that person, not for everybody, right?
Yeah.
Because everybody's body's different, and they can and can't do certain things. So I have bad back, bad knees, and bad shoulders, and everything from, all the years of everything. But so I modify quite a bit what I do.
Yeah.
I can't rely on power,
Yeah.
like that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's a interesting challenge and a really interesting way to be creative.
Yeah.
In our day to day.
Yeah. Well, another quick shout out. We are here at Boba Coffee here in Colfax, California. Smuggling good vibes, good coffee. So I said I'll continually give some shout outs to Boba. They've been a great sponsor of mine for this podcast and for the show. So yeah, just giving a quick shout out. So if you get a chance, swing by today, grab some coffee. Depending on what time it is, people get beer or wine. I don't know. If you want to get some wine this morning, go ahead and come by here and grab a glass of wine. You feel like it. But so here on 2727 State Street here in Colfax, California. So you can check them out at Baba Coffee. So just another quick shout out. So if you've been listening, we have Travis. We've been talking about creativity, jiu-jitsu, coaching, learning how to connect the dots, being able to create, different answers for situations. So so right now, I mean, I know there's always little things that I know you're always working on, but tell me, and I know you've got your own little sort of series. We talked about it a little bit. Tell me about your robot series.
Robot series. Yeah. So I started those almost 12 years ago now.
Okay.
So, and I would paint a bunch of them about once a year, and they started because the gallery was asking me to participate in these, called them artathons, so, like a jogathon, and we would use, all the artists would, get donations, and then we would stay up for 24 hours and make art, and then have a show and auction everything off for a teens program there. That's a nonprofit teens program. It's
Cool,
called Gallery, and I'm on the board of that teens that program, and that's kind of how all that started. And then, so I was like, kind of going back to where, I wasn't really enjoying making work anymore, and it was kind of rough. And then I was like, got invited to do this thing where I was like, oh, you're gonna make a painting.
Yeah.
I made a painting. And I was like, oh, okay, what am I gonna paint? So, I don't know why it came into my head, but I had this like idea of like these that we would create these robots, which is kind of scary now since we have AI and everything.
Yeah.
And Tesla just launched these robots. These robots that could outlive us, but then would be obsessed with nature.
Okay.
They would sort of be like enveloped in nature. The initial ones were like robots being kind of like swallowed up by trees and stuff.
Yeah.
Where they were kind of like integrated with the trees.
Yeah.
Or like kind of unaware.
Yeah.
So they were just so enamored with like whatever. And they're like cartoony, right? They're not like super serious things. So stuff I never would have done in grad school, and and it kind of snowballed, and then like they sold really well. Like people really enjoyed them, which was great. I was like always happy to raise money for the teen program.
Yeah.
And then I would get like requests from the gallery, like, hey, we've got people that couldn't get one of your pieces. Would you mind doing another piece? It just kind of went from there. And then 2019, I got invited to do solo show.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously 2020 happened. So I still have the show.
Yeah.
I made 16 pieces for the show. It was called Gizmos and Shiv Light. And I worked because COVID had shut everything down.
Yeah.
And I could teach online. So I was just painting every day, like 6-7 hours a day, made 16 pieces. And then we had the opening, and it was just me and the gallery owner on Facebook Live because we couldn't have anybody in the room. It was like everything was COVIDed out. But the painting is all sold. So it was like really cool. Sold out the show. And then, so I do those, like I said, about once a month, once a year. It was funny. There's a movie out right now, The Wild Robot, that just came out in theaters.
Yeah.
And one of my friends is like, this is your idea. Like, this is your idea from like 15 years ago. I'm like, yeah, I know. Somebody definitely came to one of my shows. So if you're out there, if you went to one of my shows or bought one of my paintings and you made that movie, I want to check.
Yeah.
I want to check. Um, yeah, so it's pretty funny. Even the robot kind of looks like some of the robots I was doing at the time.
Oh, wow.
It was like kind of funny. But yeah, so that's kind of how that happened. This got me excited to work with like acrylic again
Yeah.
on panel and just kind of like make a painting, make a thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun. And any of you who have painted out there, it's a stressful, it's like relaxing, but also there's that moment, when you start a painting, you're like excited.
Yeah.
And then there's like this, oh, this thing sucks. And then you're like, there's no way I'm going to recover. This is not going to come back.
Yeah.
Then you get to like, we're like, it's going to go again. And then you're like, I don't know, it sucks again. And then eventually you're like, okay, I guess it's good enough. You get it out there and people are like excited about it. And you're going, no, I don't know.
Yeah.
Everything I ever do was like, fix it, I could make it a little better.
Yep.
But, you get better, your technique gets better every thing you make. And
Yeah.
so it's just kind of, you never think about it as a final product. It's like a step towards whatever along your journey. It's, once I figured that out and I could like kind of let go a little bit of like, it's gotta be perfect with this, you have to like, that's kind of the killer of creativity. I think that's where grad school kind of, murdered my creativity for a while because it was like overthinking everything I was doing before I even did it.
Yeah.
Instead of just like doing it. And I think in jiu-jitsu, it's the same thing. Like if you like hesitate too long, like you get in trouble,
Yeah.
right? Like someone will talk to you, like you can't just chill out.
Yeah.
Hesitate because you don't know what to do. You can chill out if it's a decision, but you can't chill out if it's like, well, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about all these things that I can do, and then you can't do it. So it's like it's a corollary, it's funny until talking about it, you really think about that. But yeah, it's like that stagnation of like just overthinking things can be really problematic when you're trying to be creative. Sometimes you're thinking all the time, but you want to just put some stuff down on paper.
Yeah.
If I'm coming up with ideas for a client, I listen to their needs, what they're looking for, and then it sparks, some creativity in my head. And then I start doodling, you know, ugly pencil sketches of like what I think it might look like.
Yeah.
And then from there, I can kind of like do something, right? And
Yeah.
as a teacher, I always say like to students, it's like you have to do something, even if it's bad, for me to help you make it better.
I like
Right?
that.
Because if you don't do anything, I can't help you.
Yeah.
Right. So if you don't put it down, I can't fix it. I can't give you advice. I can't do anything.
Yeah.
Right. Because there's nothing for me to look at. And the same thing in jiu-jitsu, if I'm rolling with somebody who's a lower skill level, it's like, just try something.
Yeah.
They're, well, I'm afraid because I don't know what to do. It's like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Let's try something. Because we'll learn what to do and what not to do.
Yeah.
If you don't try, then the role is stagnant. We don't do anything.
Yeah.
Like if you're in a wrestling match and no one ever moves, like not really a wrestling match.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So
Yep.
those are interesting corollaries that just kind of clicked in my head as we're talking about this right now.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. I mean, I know personally, I write a lot of notes and things now, and if I've got an idea for something, or something sort of just pops in my head. Maybe I am looking for an idea on anything. I make sure I write that down because it's really easy for me to like, hey, let's go on to the next thing. So I have to make sure like I put it down on paper. Even for my athletes, I tell them, like if there's something that you're struggling with, or something you want to work on, like put it down on paper. Like don't sit there. And I mean, I know people process things in different ways, but even for my like adult wrestlers or my college wrestlers, like whatever things you're thinking about or goals or struggles, right? Put it on paper. Put it on paper. So yeah, I can't stress that enough. Sometimes we just we keep everything in our head, and it's not meant for that. It's just, it's like put it down, express it. I don't care if you need to draw it, sketch it. It doesn't matter, but you've got to put it down on paper.
Yeah, talking to a voice report, whatever. Doesn't matter. Get it out there.
Yep.
Doesn't necessarily mean it's always for the public, but it's like just getting it out of your head sometimes is huge.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you're plagued with this as a creative person, but I'm like, my brain never stops.
No, it don't.
So that's another thing where like the physical stress of training like helps calm my mind.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
I can't think about anything else.
Yeah.
It's like, that's why I like rock climbing and things like that, where you have to be so focused on what you're doing.
Yeah.
The second you aren't, you're falling through the air.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That's something you better focus.
Second you're not paying attention, someone's smashing you or choking you,
Yeah.
something like that. So that's kind of the key thing that I think about.
Yeah.
As a practitioner of all these things.
Oh yeah. 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 It's normally, I tell that I find it really hard, even coaching college kids, not say it's hard, but um, specifically more with the adults, it's really hard for them to get through that resistance of like being willing to like to feel like, okay, there's no, you don't have to feel like, you got to win or lose. Like, I just want you to like sort of open up and let's just work on like little things here. And some people still have that resistance where they, maybe they've learned certain things to a point, and then now it's like now you might have to unlearn some things. It's actually really hard for people to unlearn just different concepts. And
Especially when
yeah,
because everyone feels good when they win.
yeah,
It sucks to lose.
yeah,
But then, as you mature as an athlete, you're like, losing is where you're going to do the most amount of learning.
yeah,
It's like cliche, but it's so true.
yeah,
Like until you can open up and get creative, play,
yes,
that's when you learn,
yeah,
right? There's times to turn it on, obviously.
yeah,
But like, if you don't have that experimentation and then kind of gin up, or in the bats, or whatever, or in the sketchbook or whatever,
yeah,
like everything's going to feel restrained,
yeah,
and you can't express yourself, right? Because you're hesitant because you're worried about losing.
yeah,
Oh, if you're worried about losing, you're already going to lose.
yeah,
It's just like I
yeah,
think it's the same thing with art. If you're worried about what people are going to think, it's probably like you could have just done it.
yeah,
And it took me a long time to figure that out. I
oh,
still
yeah,
wrestle with it all the time.
yeah,
Or I don't know, this idea is kind of stupid. I don't know. And then, sometimes if you just do it, you're like, okay, well, it's stupid.
yeah.
I think knowing how to fight helps.
I know I was sort of went with the movie theory where I'm a big like B movie fan. Like I love like this horrible movie, and I know what I'm going into.
Absolutely.
And I keep thinking like, wait a minute, someone greenlit this ideal for something that's just out of control. Just I mean, I usually go on like Pluto TV or Tubi or something and find like just some craziest stuff.
Yeah,
And
TV,
and like someone funded this ideal, so that means like whatever you got is probably better than what I'm seeing right now. Yeah.
No, that's for sure.
So it's just like I said, honestly, it just goes back to even with my talk, just talking about like the finding the resources, finding the network. And I was like, you probably really, I think anyone that's listening to this, you probably have a really good idea for something. That's just figuring out ways of getting that out.
Yeah, that's the key. If you can find a way, build your team, you know, oh, I know a person who has a silk screening business
Yeah.
or this, and leverage those things, and you can manifest this stuff. And again, it's like figuring out how to do it in a way that you can do it, right?
Yeah.
We were just talking before about your graphic novel book and publishing, like,
Yeah.
getting it done. And I was saying how like it's so nice now. You have these tools where, hey, maybe for no upfront cost, maybe it's all printed on demand, right? So maybe that's a solution, right? You want to publish your book, but you can't afford to buy 10 copies. Oh, we'll find a way to sell it direct to the consumer.
Yeah.
There's more of these. Would you like to support a local business silk screening? Absolutely, but sometimes maybe you can't because you can't afford to buy 600 shirts or whatever up front. So then you do an on-demand thing for the time being, right?
Yeah.
And see if you can build the audience for that thing that you're making.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, with fine art, it's a little different because I feel like you're going to have the people that love what you do no matter what. And the people that like, it's just not their thing.
Yeah.
That's cool too.
Yeah.
All right. With the commercial side, the graphic design side, there's still some of that, but I feel like there is, because it's going to be worn or it's going to be, expressed kind of in some other way, or a sticker on the water bottle, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It's interesting the decision-making tree that happens for people there, and think like on what they put value on.
Yeah.
But with paintings, it's like, I don't really make any money.
Yeah.
Even when the show sells,
Yeah.
it's like my factor in my hours, I lost thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Thousands of dollars. Just in that solo show alone.
Yeah.
It's like, and pricing work, it's like really a challenge with fine art stuff, because it's like part of me wants to charge what I'm worth.
Yes.
For sure. But I know sometimes that's going to be at odds with getting the work into people's homes or into their collections and stuff like that. So I'm always trying to find a sweet spot where like, what can I charge that like makes me not feel like I totally just got hosed, but also is a like, one of my friends who works at a coffee shop or something could afford.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting challenge because it's hard to walk those lines. All my friends are either kind of in the real affordable category or they're in the real expensive category. And it's like the stratosphere, changes for who they're around.
Yeah.
Who's got the money, what people are buying their stuff. So whereas like with the commercial stuff, some of it's more transactional, right? Like if someone's asking me to do a t-shirt graphic or something, okay, I'm going to charge whatever I'm going to charge. It's $1,000 for whatever, 3 comps plus revisions twice or something like that, and that makes it a flat fee. Or maybe it's this much upfront, but I want a percentage every year of however many shirts you sell with that graphic or whatever.
Yeah.
But those are like contractual, and I feel like those are a little easier for me to like work around in that creative space.
Yeah.
But like when it's like my own kind of art for creative sake,
Yeah.
I'm always like, I don't know what's charging people. Ever like still pushing 50, and I still don't know what they're like. I don't know.
It's weird. I mean, that's the stuff that like that's why like I wish I would love to come back and like teach more either the design students or just people that's trying to make stuff and they're trying to like they didn't teach this to me in college. So like I'm having to learn through like the school of hard knocks. So like wait a minute, it's sometimes it's based off of perception. Like maybe you got some big social media following and people catch wind up, like, hey, I want, I'm wanting some identity or some logo design. And I see that you've done work with all these big companies. Well, their perception, is feeling like, hey, well, I'm expecting them to, charge me like 10 grand for it. And it's so weird because, you got somebody that may not have a following could probably create just the same compelling identity, but they charge, $150 for it. And sometimes it's based off of like perception.
Yeah.
So it's so weird.
Got paid very well some big corporate clients.
Yeah.
And I probably undercharged them.
Yeah.
And they're thinking like, oh, we got a deal. And I'm thinking like, man, I should have charged. I did some animation work for illustrations. So I'm going to be trying to do animations for a big corporate client a bunch of years back. But a friend of mine, she recommended me to them. And I was like, oh, cool. And then, I quoted $2,000 or something like that for this work.
Yeah.
And when I told my friend, I was like, I just quoted like $2,000. And she goes, that's it? She's like, you should have charged it like 7 or 8. She's like, they would have paid it. And I was like, it was too late. I already undersold myself. They're a huge biotech firm. Great. So just stuff like that. But the corporate clients tend to pay, and they pay on time.
Yeah.
They always pay on time.
Yeah.
The stuff you do for your homies, the stuff where it's like you never get paid or you get paid whenever they do. Yeah. Or the small business, you're trying to hook them up and you just like never see the check and always it's for forever, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's funny you said that with school because I feel the same way. Like nobody was really telling me even in art school, like how to be your own business or your own brand.
Yeah.
Marketing. Like, what does that even look like? I don't think it's constantly changing landscape. And it's like I look at both of us and like we do so many things.
Yeah.
I don't know how you tackle that.
Yeah.
I just started my first LLC this year, and it's like art theory praxis, and I made it like somewhere relevant. So it's like my design stuff or coaching services or archery instruction and shooting instruction.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Like on that, and it's like okay, it's all those things.
Yeah.
So it doesn't. It's like I don't know how to market that to people. It's like no, it's just me. It's like what I do.
Yeah.
All these things, and now I find anyone that has tax write-ups.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I was talking to my wife about that actually yesterday because, it was like just the people come at me with a lot of different things, and I'm like, well, I'm like one of those like weird people that like I love to like do a lot of things, and there's certain things that I'm really good at, but it's just like, hey, if you need design, I'm here. If you want to do podcasting, I'm here too. If you want to wrestle, those are kind of where I've told myself, I'm same boat. I'm figuring out ways to put a packaging, just really all the things that I like to do, and just turn it into some little media company and do that. Like I said, it's just one of those where nothing is set in stone. I mean, there's no rules to it.
Yeah.
If people love it, then they'll gravitate towards it. So I know initially I would definitely I would try to create things like geared towards what people are liking, but now like I'm just creating my own thing. If you like it, you like it.
Yeah.
So
I think that's like about our maturity. As we get older, we don't care as much what other people think. Like, and honestly, it sounds like silly, but like I think because we can fight, like we can. It creates a level of calm.
Yeah.
Where you're like, well, the kind of thing you could say that's gonna like get me upset.
Yeah.
Like I have people trying to literally murder me for fun, like multiple nights a week. Like oh, you said harsh words, you didn't like what I did.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I think it helps, with a little bit of balance when you go into like a negotiating or whatever. You
Yeah.
just kind of like, yeah, well,
Yeah.
I did it. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Open up. It's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, finding that nowadays everything's so social media driven, things like that. I have a Instagram account and everything, but it's like I haven't really tried to leverage that,
Yeah.
in a meaningful way. I'm curious, like for you, I know for me, like what's almost as important as what I say yes to now is like what I say no to.
Yeah.
Just in terms of not working with that. Just knowing, oh, I don't have time for that.
Yeah.
Or the other thing I find that I feel like I'm good at is when somebody asks me for something, whether it's piece design or something like that, if it's not something that's in my wheelhouse, sometimes if it's like close, adjacent, okay, I'll give it a shot.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's like right away, I'd be like, oh no, you want to talk to, you want to talk to my friend Shelby, or you want to talk to, like, I try to actually give probably more work away
Yeah.
to people who I think could do it better.
Yeah.
Than that comes back to me. Like it's like in good vibes and, or willingness to come talk to my students or whatever it is. Like, so when I call in the favors, I'm like, oh, absolutely. I got those 3 jobs from you or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I'm always trying to help lift like everyone else up too. Like, I don't have a lot of time to do everything. I got sons, that are busy. It's, 12-year-old and started football and band and this and that, all that stuff. I'm trying to train. And my wife's got her hobbies and things.
Yeah.
Like most work. Yeah, it's a lot. So,
Yeah.
I'm just kind of like, now it's like, no, I don't have time for that. Which weirdly like makes people like to do stuff more with you. Which is kind of really oxymoronic sort of phenomenon, but it's what it is. I don't know.
Yeah. I had one of my business partners that I do the wrestling cards with, and he was talking to me. He was like, I see you doing all that stuff. Like, I just have the energy to do all this stuff. And I'm like, well, we should talk. Like, what am I saying yes to? And then what am I saying no to? Like, how do I sort of manage and focus my energy toward the things like I want to do this. Because listen, I can't be there for everyone. Now I would love to have like a big company to where like, hey, yes, I've got a person that can work with you if you need this. Hey, this guy can work with you. But it's not there yet. But so right now, I just say yes to the things I want to do. And so yeah, I mean, and I think I just I think honestly, and I tell a small group of people this, like even with my mom passing away, I think I've just had more gratitude for just where I'm at right now. I know I'm not in I'm not in like the best situation, but I do have a lot of opportunity to do different things. So while I'm here, like express it, create it, because you just don't know when your time is up. You don't know.
Yeah, this decidedly short. I know as a person, like it's life now for sure.
Yeah.
It's like I think about those things all the time.
Yeah.
Like legacy in terms of like my own kids.
Yeah.
And but the constant panic as a father, like, am I doing a good job?
Yeah.
How that's real.
Yeah.
And then I think like, and you do this a lot too, but like thinking back to community, right? Whether that's through coaching the other people and trying to help guide them.
Yeah.
For me, like teaching and coaching is a way for me to kind of like give people the benefits that maybe somebody gave to me.
Yeah.
In certain regard. It's like, so I don't know your upbringing in Tennessee, but like, my parents were divorced.
Yeah.
My mom was a single mom working all the time.
I too.
And, didn't have a lot of money, didn't have a lot, spent a lot of time on my own.
Yeah.
That's probably why I'm as creative as I am. Yeah. So look here now, I didn't have the internet. So that kind of stuff I think is like help shape you. And so then there was like along the way, there's always mentors, whether you know or not, for better or for worse in some cases. But I think back like just weird experiences I was able to have. I remember as a kid, we had a neighbor in this little kind of crummy neighborhood we lived in, this tiny little place. And this guy had this little single car garage, and I would walk by it all the time. We lived right behind the train tracks, loud, and all this stuff. But this guy was making windows. He was like a stained glass.
Yeah.
And I would walk by every day because I was like, street, but what's the guy doing? Like, oh, see the And finally one day he was like, hey, it's like, if you want to come check it out, like just go get permission from your mom or whatever and come over and check it out.
Yeah.
So I did. And then next thing you know, I was like 10 years old and I was helping him. Like on the weekends, I'd go there and I'd sit in the shop and I'd watch him work and I'd sweep up and I'd dust things off. And eventually he'd show me how to solder and how to bend things and how he lays out stuff. And he would give me the straps and I would make my own little stained glass windows and stuff. And it wasn't something I pursued after that, but it was just like, you know, right person, right time, saw that I was like interested in doing something like that and then showed me how to do it.
Yeah.
In the old school way where I was like, hey, here's a broom. If you're going to be in here, you're going to stuff to work. But
Yep.
like, and he just kind of watched, you know,
Yeah.
and eventually you got shown a little thing and practice that. And
Yeah.
eventually I was getting to help him weld and do stuff like for real processes, get paid huge.
Yeah.
Glass windows in this tiny little single car garage. And I just remember like people like that. Even my art teacher in high school, I was too broke to go on this huge like couple week long field trip with the Madrigal group, like the choir group.
Yeah.
My senior year. It's a longer story, but got recruited with a bunch of people to sing in high school. And so Mr. Bob was like, well, hey, you're a good artist. Like, why don't you design the sweatshirts? And then I'll show you how to silk screen up. And then we'll sell those to all the families going on the trip. And we'll use that money to help pay for it. So like, instead of just being like, well, let's get charity for Travis or let's do this, like, here, you can take a skill you have.
Mhm.
I'm going to help you. Come every day after school. And I literally, like, I did the design for the whole thing, picked all the colors, learned how to do color separations, learned how to screen. And I screened sweatshirts for like a week straight, and, you know, and then sold them to all the families that everybody's going. And that what covered my trip. And it wasn't like a handout. It was just like, it was like, hey, you have a skill. Let's capitalize it. Let's do it, you know, and learn how to like do a thing. And then from then I learned how to switch. Yeah, like that was kind of cool. So I just look at like in my life, like just little opportunities like that. And a lot of times they've come from creative people or from martial arts.
Yeah.
Because I did karate as a kid, like most kids. I did a lot of Muay Thai and stuff like that. But I had great like coaches that were like, and my dad's a great guy, like, but they were like stand-ins when like I wasn't around, you know, a father figure or whatever. It's like my stepdad's an amazing dude too.
Yeah.
But he was busy. They were all working and, you know, that kind of stuff when my mom finally remarried. So like just having those like adversities, like I think helps, like, you know, we moved a ton. I don't know if you moved, we moved all the time. So like constantly changing schools and stuff. So that helped me be a creative problem solver too, because I had to figure out how to make friends quickly and suss out the situation fast, things like that. So a lot of those experiences, I think, shape how we are as creative people.
Yeah.
So I always wonder, like, man, what would it been like? 'Cause I was like stable, you know, 2-parent household my whole life, which is funny because that's what I've given my kids.
Yeah.
Like I've been married 20, almost 25 years now.
Yeah.
Like, you know, 2 sons, they're awesome. We live in the same house, basically, that we've lived in since we had them. You know, it's like, or condo, I should say, or big house. And it's like, which is weird to me, you know, because I'm like, of course is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
But like, also it's so not what my upbringing was.
Yeah, no, I think if it's sort of weird because I think about that too. Like, what if we were in the best situations? And honestly, it's one of those, like, even when you had like, if you were in a great situation, you had a stable upbringing, you would be civilized. I just don't think that's you.
Yeah.
So that's the, you know, I do look back all the time, but I mean, and personally for me, I've got all these journals. Like I've been journaling for probably 20 something years. So I've got all these books. So I'll look back and like, I'll see all these entries and, you know, there's always things like, hey, I wish, I could have, had that, 2-parent home and stuff like that. But that those situations would not transform me into the person I am now. So like, I'm really willing to, like, especially for my young people, like trying to help them out because I didn't have that situation. So I think if it was a situation where like, everything was given to me, or if I had certain comforts, I don't think I would be willing to give that energy as much. So yeah, I mean, I think that's obviously you'd want it to be best situation, but no, I think you creatively find ways of making the best of what you got. I know personally for me, I'm a quick shout out to comic book fans, to comic books in general. I know there's been a big stigma with having comic books in education, but comic books helped me I would not be in advanced English if it wasn't for comic books. Like that was my first reading material when I was like 6 years old. Was reading all those comic books, and I was like in advanced English the whole time.
That's awesome.
Now my social skills was horrible, but you know, but my art and English was like I was always in advanced classes.
Yeah.
That was what helped me out. Just going through my, elementary, middle school, high school, that was the way I knew how to communicate was through art and writing. And that was the way, for me, that was the easiest way for me. But, so yeah, quick shout out, comic book saved my life. I would not be where I'm at if it wasn't for comic books. So, and art.
I try to get my younger son, like 2 sons, and one is, you know, read from a super early age, still reads,
Yeah.
autodidact, teaches himself everything, is all about it. And my other son is amazing and is like our empath. He's like, feels all the feels.
Yeah.
But he doesn't enjoy reading.
Yeah.
He listens to audiobooks just fine. And I tried, he's only 12, but I was like, here's some comic books. Like,
Yeah.
find something you like in the comic book because like then you develop like a love of reading and images and stuff like that. But he is I'm turning out to be a little bit of an artist. I've seen him now. He's like, he'll trace on his little iPad. And he's trying to start to do stuff. And he made a little coat of arms for school the other day, and he's like explaining to me like how he did everything. And I was like, all right,
Yeah.
I'm like, maybe that's gonna be your jam. I think the problem is, for better or for worse, all the video games and everything. It's like, it's where all their friends are. So it's like, who wants to spend all this time doing that? There's all these other ways you can be spending this time. If you're not going to be outside doing something, at least you could be doing this. But it is, we're different generations. We can't. But
Yes, it is.
I think all of us Gen Xers were like, come on, guys, like, get outside.
Yeah,
it's trouble.
I know my little niece and nephew. I sort of trained them up, because they're wanting to be artists and stuff like that. So, and they told me like, I want to be a professional artist. I'm like, okay, and I don't get super serious with them, but like anytime I come in, we're always doing arts and crafts and showing them different things, and even showing them how to do like text prompts for AI. Like I showed them like, hey, tell me what you want, and I'll type it in until they're seeing how to do certain things. And yeah, it's just I think it's just one of those where I think they were talking to me about like Roblox or something like that. I've never been on there, and they're like, "Do you play Roblox?" I'm like, no, I don't mess with it. But learning how to, because everything is so evolving so quick, and figuring out creative ways of like, okay, maybe if I could dabble in Roblox, like not to say it would help me to create that connection with with my niece and nephew, but maybe it might be certain things that I can learn. To where I can maybe apply that to my, to my skill set.
I mean, at the very least, it builds that bonding time.
Yeah.
I do that. I mean, I'll play video games with my kids, but the problem is we like different video games, So it's the hard part. That's a challenge, to try to figure out how to reach them and get them to do cool stuff. But it's so important. I think, we have I think the research is like whatever 0 to 5, that's when you have the most impact as a parent. And after that, it's like you're like second or fifth fiddle when it comes to like who's doing what, influencing your kids. And with the internet, it's like more terrifying. You got me thinking about AI, and I don't know how much you're using it already, but I'm trying to use it and leverage it as an additional tool, right, for now.
Yeah,
because I do have I'm like simultaneously intrigued, but also like apprehensive of like what the technology is going to bring forth with regards to like our jobs or our passions.
Yeah.
But also like for a whole host of industries.
Yeah.
Now, my job, I work a lot with career technical education and education, as I'm thinking about like what careers do you need to get filled in the next 10 to 20 years, and like in this state, coupled with like what careers are going to even exist, in 10 or 20 years, which is really wild. I was shown I think it's one of Google's things but it was called Notebook LM or something like that. And took a PDF like of just like a strategic work plan, or you could take a PDF of like a historical figure, whatever, just something you could find. You can upload it and it'll give you like breakdowns instantly of like the key notes, and you can click a little button and do all this stuff. But what tripped me out was you could click a button for podcast, and then it had AI generated podcast, male and female hosts discussing the topic that you just uploaded for like 15 minutes. They made a 15-minute podcast in like a minute, and it's surprisingly good. There's some moments where there's like some uncanny pauses and weird stuff.
Yeah.
But pretty good.
Wow.
And I was just going like, man, so on the one hand, what a powerful tool. So if you're somebody who's like an auditory learner, like my son,
Yeah.
like, man, to be able to just dump a book in there and just like, hey, it's audiobook, or hey, you've got a paper to read, here, just dump it up.
Yeah.
And I can hear it in the podcast. That's amazing.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, it's so real. I like, how do you know that, like, you know, it's not this?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's really, I'm really intrigued and terrified at the same time by AI, but it's getting, pretty helpful. And in some weird ways, I think as creatives, it's going to be like the vinyl records where like it might actually make the work we do more valuable
Yes.
in some ways.
Yeah.
Because it's not produced by AI.
Yeah.
And I think there's some obvious financial and expedience reasons why companies would want to use AI for things like in advertisements and stuff like that. You're already seeing a ton of it in Instagram ads.
Yeah.
Lots of AI generated images.
Yep.
Which I think is like, makes sense. It's low
Yeah.
cost. They don't pay anybody. But I think when it comes to like actually, oh, I want like a piece to plug behind, like that's going to be a different thing.
Yeah.
Right. And that's my optimistic side, like hoping that doesn't crush, the creatives.
Yeah.
Because I know the whole Hollywood strike was over AI.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Writing room with that. And we're not quite there yet, but we're so close to where it's going to produce, as good or better than a lot of things. I remember when this conversation was around digital photography versus analog photography.
Yeah.
And people were like, well, digital is never going to get to where film was. It was like, well, that was not true.
Yeah.
And there is some magic. I still like shooting film, and I love being in a dark room. I used to teach in LA at a dark room.
Yeah.
And it was awesome. And but there's no question it's so much easier to shoot video, and the quality on the phones is better than the best digital camera was 20 years ago by 1,000%. So it's like, but again, are you using it as a tool to augment a skill set you already have, or are you just using it, right? Because it's the only thing you know how to use.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting challenge, because like for us, when we're using a digital tool, well, we already know how to draw and paint.
Yeah.
So then the digital tool is a tool. It's like, okay, I just learned this other tool. It makes it faster, less cleanup. I can make more mistakes quicker and like generate multiple iterations very fast.
Yeah.
So it augments our workflow. Whereas like there's some kids who just like learn on it and they're amazing at it.
Yeah.
But then if you hand them like a paintbrush, they don't understand how to like lay paint down on or like what it means to like mix a custom color or like just little stuff like that. That maybe it's unimportant, but to me it seems like, man, that's like a piece of lost knowledge you don't want to lose,
Yeah.
And that's so for me that analog digital divide is like kind of interesting. It's like I like technology, I like using it, but I also you should know how to do it. It's like if you're using AI to write everything for you, well, if you already know how to write and communicate, then that's good because it's going to speed up your workflow or maybe clean up the tone or the case like quickly instead of having to sit there and rewrite it. But if you don't know how to write, and you're just like, well, I can talk to the AI, and then you didn't learn how to communicate.
Yeah.
And how we speak and how we write is how we're thinking.
Yeah.
So you're losing the ability to think, and like at least in my opinion, I think it's actually like hindering our ability to be creative or to think.
Yeah.
And at the very least, shifting it because now you have to be how do I make my prompt creative? Or that kind of stuff. But it's I don't know. To me, that's a really interesting challenge. I'm like I said, simultaneously intrigued and also terrified by. I don't know what's going to bode for our future, and I see it with my kids and my students. And things like that, so.
Oh yeah, it's definitely some weird times right now. I definitely see it as a tool. I don't honestly, I don't feel scared of it. I feel like this is another tool. I mean, I know I use ChatGPT all the time. Just if I'm concepting, ideas, just random things, just experiment with it. I'm like, what's some ideas on such and such? They'll give me some things, at least some things to sort of springboard and like, oh, okay, well, consider that. Okay, let me work on that further. So I think for that, I mean, I see it as a really good assistant for me.
Yeah.
I just I think personally like AI. I don't think AI will never replicate you or replicate me. Now it could probably replicate perhaps our style or maybe certain things that we're putting out. But I just don't think it can truly replicate like the humanity and us. I don't know, maybe not for at least another 100 to 200 years
or
anyway.
5, depending
Yeah.
on what happens.
Yeah. So yeah, Skynet, I don't think it's went active yet. But so yeah, for right now, I mean, I think I always just see it as another tool. You always have your early adopters, and then you have people that sooner or later they start using it. But I always see that as just another skill set. Like, hey, I could use it. I don't have to use it.
Yeah.
I would rather use my mind, use my hands. But if I need to speed up production a little bit, then let's add on
I
AI.
agree. I think as a tool, and you already know the skill sets, so it's an augment. I think it's really
Yeah.
positive. And I think it'd be foolish to not use it. Like you're going to put you at a competitive disadvantage for sure.
Yeah.
Even when I'm designing now for people, I do the same thing. Sometimes I'll just like punch out a few like random AI generated like concepts just to kind of go, oh, okay, here's some ways I might lay this out visually, or and it just saves me, from having to do a lot of work.
Yeah.
Like sifting through, or if I don't have time to draw a bunch of stuff, sometimes that's a big one.
Yeah.
I still always like to do little rough pencil ugly sketches or whatever. And then I usually take those down. I'll take like 2 or 3 of those designs and kind of punch them in, see what it spits out, and kind of go, okay, there's something there.
Yeah.
Pick one and kind of, okay, now maybe I'll riff off of that. Then I just kind of go to town with my own work. But yeah, but I worry, not worry, but it makes sense. If I'm, whatever small company, I'm just like, hey, I just need a quick t-shirt graphic with, the snake eating its own tail or whatever. And I punch it in and I print it out. It's like, they can do that.
Yeah.
Maybe you make a quick buck.
Yeah.
But I would rather be able to go, oh no, this is a snake eating its own tail designed by, Quantum Langford.
Yeah.
Like this artist did.
Yeah.
A real person did. We're only going to do whatever, 500 of them or something like that to make it. I think that's something we'll see more of is like scarcity.
Yes.
Numbers, editions, things like that. Because I think it's the only way to kind of differentiate from like the AI stuff where it's going to be just ubiquitous. It's like, hey, no, we're going to do 5 of these things. So
yeah.
I mean, it's the whole NFT thing that kind of came and went seemingly pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Tried to replicate, the reality of like how things are. It's like there's one Mona Lisa.
Yeah.
Now critical theory would tell you there's thousands of Mona Lisas or millions because of all the photos, reproductions of Mona Lisa. But at the end of the day, we all know that we have to walk into the Louvre and see that painting.
Yeah.
Right. To really see it, like to be in front of it.
Yeah.
And we know that object exists.
Yeah.
Whether we look at it in a book and whatever, we know what it looks like from pictures, but at the end of the day, it's there.
Yeah.
And there's only one of them.
Yep.
So like that's why it's valuable.
Yeah.
Despite all the reproductions of it, right?
Yeah.
It's valuable because there's the one, because of who did it, whatever.
Yeah.
So I think that'll be how it'll go forward. It's like it'll be like limited edition things. It'll be like vinyl. It'll be like, oh, it's the real art. It's somebody's real art. The original piece.
Yeah.
I have the one. And I think people like that kind of stuff when you're collecting art and things like that. With our graphics, it's whatever. They're gonna be out there. But with the fine art or like your comic books and things like that, it's like graphic novels. That's a thing. You created from scratch, and it's like that's awesome.
There's some what's a creative tip for our audience?
I think I would go back to like you've got to move. Just do the thing. Whatever the idea is, like get it out somehow, some way, shape, or form. We talked about this earlier in the podcast, but like if you're stagnant, if you don't like get it out there, you get crushed. It doesn't happen. Guarantee you it won't be good because it doesn't exist, right?
Yeah.
So I think for me, it's like just start somewhere because like everything you do is going to improve to the next thing, constant skill building. So I think if you just get it out there, that's where it starts. Then worry about critiquing it and fixing it. But like you got to get it there first and then go from there. So that would be my advice because it's advice I would have liked to have when I was younger. I think little kids do it automatically.
Oh yeah.
But we get kind of conditioned out of that. By the time we're in high school, it's like, I don't know. So I think just get it out there and do the thing.
I like that. And then before we sign off, what are some words of wisdom? Just anything that's on your mind before we sign off.
Something I always tell my students is how you do anything is how you do everything. And I think about that a lot, weirdly enough, because I think when we can put like intention behind the things we do, it elevates everything we're doing, whether it's martial arts or whatever. I talk to students about this all the time at the gym, where I'm like, when you come to an open mat, don't just come to train. Come to train with a purpose. Like, if you have some intention, then you're going to grow in some way, shape, or form. And it shows people that you are invested in like what's happening to you and what's happening to them and all that stuff. And it's tied to this idea of like, call it the path of small failures and the path of small successes.
Yeah.
It's like, if you're the kind of person that shows up late, is slightly disrespectful, does a half-ass job, whatever, right? You're going to screw up because everyone screws up. But eventually, like, people don't give you those second chances because like you have a track record of kind of not doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And if you're the person who shows up on time, says please and thank you, stays after to help a friend, you know, you get your work done, whatever, the little gestures, those build, right? And you fast forward and you have people that have had like a lot of opportunities.
Mhm.
And so on the small failure side, it's like, you know, fast forward, they're 50 and they're like, man, I never got a break. No one ever gave. And it's like, yeah, but it started because you weren't like taking out the trash and saying please and thank you. You know, like they weren't listening when elders were talking to you or whatever. When you had an opportunity to learn, you didn't. You know, like those decisions. And so those doors benignly closed. So for me, it's like how you do anything is how you do everything. It's kind of like thinking about that. You know, do you push the chair back in? Do you put your cart back at the grocery store? Like that kind of stuff matters. You know, like we live in a society. You know, But I think that's key, and it has helped me whenever I'm faltering, and I kind of go back to that. Oh, hey, when I'm cleaning up the house, like, do it right.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I tell my kids, like, hey, the bathroom is not your laundry room. You know, like that kind of stuff. It's like just move it from here to there, and I think that can help establish some kind of like order in your life. So that'd be my piece of advice for them.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I probably have to do another episode on manners. Young kids and manners with the elderly. That's another topic. But,
it's rough.
So I know I grew up in the South. And we had a different like, hey, you
Yes,
open
sir.
the door, yes sir, yeah.
Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am.
I get out here, I'm like, what's going on here? But hey, this has been another great episode. Different ways of supporting the podcast and in the show. If you go to www.buymeacoffee.com/the creative brew, you can support this episode with Travis as well as future episodes. And then if you're interested in advertising or you know putting your brand out, we got packages as well for that too as well. So once again, this has been another great episode with my friend Travis and me. We're here at Bottle Coffee, and this is the Creative Brew. Be creative, stay inspired.
All I know is hard work, really nothing else. I resort to smoking weed, yo, cause nothing helps. Called to hold me up, told them loot the sample up. We gotta come together now, cause I had enough. The time is now, there'll never be another one. It's the second lap.